And good morning. Welcome to a special Out and About show here on 1590 KVGB 97.7 FM. It's Focus on Stafford County. Today, Steve Webster, your host on the program, as we talk about everything going on in Stafford County. Joining us on the show today, Carolyn Dunn. She's Stafford County Economic Development Director. And Ashlee Bevan. She is Stafford County Eco Devo Program Director. Guys, thanks for being here. It's been a while, right? Because we had some conflicts last month, so because you commented on the glasses, I've had these things for a while.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, so.
They're very sharp.
Really?
Yes, very
well,
distinguished.
Thank you very much. A lot of things to cover here on the program today, so let's go ahead and start, Carolyn, with the incubator building and / pharmacy, and tell us what we're talking about and where we're at.
What we're talking about here, we've had plans here for maybe even close to a year for developing a business incubator with living quarters as well as business quarters. We had made plans to construct something new. Meanwhile, we had the opportunity to buy a building in St. John. So that has been in process over the summer and is now finalized. We do own the building at 311 North Broadway in St. John. And it has on its ground floor commercial space. It's been a restaurant, a flower shop, an insurance office. It held the St. John Main Street program for a period of time. Nice amount of space there. And on the second floor, it has a 3-bedroom apartment. We have a tenant right away who is wanting to use this as temporary space. That's very much the intent of getting, having that kind of space available to help getting a business get established. So Stafford County Drug will be locating there, and the intent is that they'll be renting that space until our grocery store is constructed, at which time they'll move to that new grocery building with a drive-through and the like. But, they have been ready to come here for a little while now, but it's kind of that question of where does someone go? It's that kind of illogical paradox that even though we don't have a lot of new business creation, that one of the hard things is to find an appropriate place to locate. And so we're trying to alleviate that with our business incubator, and very excited to have them here and getting going. Doing some minor renovations to the building, and that could start as soon as tomorrow. Probably next week is a safe bet, and it shouldn't take long. It'll probably be, as much as anything, making sure that the licensing comes through before they can actually open doors. So we don't have a date yet, but we're very much underway.
When was the last time Stafford County or St. John had a pharmacy?
I don't know the date. I keep saying a generation. I think it's been 20 or 25 years. I don't know exactly.
This worked out perfect then, really. I mean, because, of course, we said the pharmacy was going to be part of a new grocery store and things like that. But if you got the pharmacy ready to go and you've got a place, so this worked out well.
It did. It really did. And this will also give us some time to kind of develop our next plan for what the incubator will be. We very much want to use that idea that it's got residential space. We think it can be very helpful in trying to place interns in the area, or if we want to work to recruit people from colleges that maybe are studying entrepreneurship, to give them a more defined way to have a place to launch their business. There's a lot of possibilities, but this will give us a few months to maybe develop some applications if we need to find some additional sources of funding, or there's been some ideas tossed around with like AmeriCorps and so forth, and that would be an application process if we go that direction. I think there's a lot of possibilities. If I think about the idea that Gray's Studio is also, they'll have living quarters with business space too. There may be some really neat ways that we can work together on some programs. We'll have a tenant that gets this going in the meantime, but we'll still be working in the background for the next stage of things.
Okay, and I want to go back to the incubator, but tell me about Stafford County Pharmacy.
They're a partnership between two existing pharmacies that are based in Medicine Lodge and Pratt. Many people locally recognize Medical Arts Pharmacy in Pratt. They have a lot of clientele, I think, from the St. John and Stafford County area already. I think that's part of what maybe positions them to get off to a strong start and do well. We have a new pharmacist that actually lives now in St. John, is working at the Pratt location, but he will be full-time here in St. John as soon as we get it started. We also have a couple of positions that will be support positions and employment opportunities as a pharmacy tech and a kind of a clerk and delivery person.
Big
so 3
news.
new jobs.
So there you go. And a pharmacy now in Stafford County.
Mm-hmm.
So that is fantastic news. Now, the incubator, someone is interested. Basically, this is starting a business and to help get them off to a good start. They've got a place to live right above their location then.
Right.
So is there application processes in place right now, or?
While the pharmacy is there, they'll have a lease until, I think we wrote it through May of next year. We know that it's going to take several months to get our building built. So we'll be finalizing some of that stuff where application process. I can't say honestly.
You've got a lot of working parts going on, or a lot of working things going on.
And I know I will probably be a little more responsible for doing some research of how we develop this incubator and policy and procedures. And we almost need to form an advisory committee that can then give suggestions to our board of directors, and a lot of moving pieces that we've got to put together for this. But we're excited.
Yeah, and so that is going on. Ashlee, Stafford Painting Partnership, and tell me what's going on with this.
Yeah, this is new. Last year, the Call to Action group was started in Stafford. Julie Lyon, essentially a transplant to Stafford. She's running the motel there in town, but she's taken on a lot of other volunteer things. But she's leading this Call to Action group. And jumping off of that, they've also looked at painting downtown businesses and then homeowners. This program, so the Stafford Painting Partnership, the purpose of it is to provide assistance to home and business owners within the city of Stafford to enable them to repair the exterior of their homes or businesses in an attempt to alleviate deteriorating housing and building conditions within the city. And so this group has approached the city of Stafford, the Chamber of Commerce, and now Economic Development to form a support group, essentially, or finances, to fund this. How this works is individuals that are interested fill out an application, take it to the city office, and it's essentially a first-come, first-served basis. So they have to go buy paint supplies from a business within Stafford County and then paint their structure within 60 days of submitting their application, and then they get reimbursed for the paint supplies up to $500. And so how this ties with economic development, we're combating community deterioration. That's part of economic development's purpose. And so we felt like this was something worth supporting. They're going to take before and after photos, so look for those on social media. It'll make a huge difference. And the chamber president came and spoke to our board of directors last month and notified us that they already have a handful of people interested in this. So now that everything's kind of put together with these partnerships to financially support the program, they'll take the next steps to move forward and actually get people going.
Didn't Bike and Build do some painting down when they were here?
They did.
And that probably people said, well, wow, that looks pretty good. Maybe.
Yes, they did. They painted the Chamber of Commerce building. That was in 2015, I think. I think part of the inspiration of this, there was some citizens in Stafford that did some research contacting other towns in Kansas of similar size and what kind of programs they had to try to revitalize their town. And this one, I think, kind of rose to the top as something that's feasible and doable on a small budget, and if it helps kind of get the ball rolling and people interested and looking as good as their neighbor or whatever, then that's a good thing. That will have accomplished some of our goals of just some revitalization.
The ball, you got to start somewhere. So everyone, well, we need to. That always happens like that. We need to paint these. We need to fix up, and then something actually happens. Like the Bike and Build comes in. Well, that's all right. Hey, we can do it. It
right.
Always seems to start with something like that gets the momentum going. So, neat deal. Stafford Painting Partnership. How can people find out more?
The city office in Stafford has all the information. With their offices being open throughout the majority of the day, they just felt like that was the best central location to have all of this. But yep, they can get applications there, and the city office gals know about it. So
excellent. TIF, Carolyn.
Yes.
TIF.
I'm not in a TIF. I'm not mad.
the acronym of the day is TIF.
It's Tax Increment Finance, and this is one of the tools we're implementing to help finance the grocery store project in St. John. And so it is a very structured legal process of first establishing a district, and then once you've got your district established, then you have notification of a plan for your particular project within the district. And there's, with all of these, again, a structured process of public notice, public meetings, and eventual, city council decision making on it. But since we are in that process now of kind of our last stage of public meetings and public notice for hearings, thought I would kind of point out where we are on that. So this is kind of the last stage of it. We will be meeting the City of St. John and the St. John Planning and Zoning Commission, meeting in a joint meeting Monday, where they determine whether or not this plan is consistent with our citywide comprehensive plan. And then if so, then the city can say, okay, well, then we're going to have a hearing on the plan in 30 days. And that's what Monday's meeting will be.
Okay. Now, a lot of times, speaking of moving parts, because people probably, let's focus on Stafford County today. When are they going to be moving dirt for the grocery store? But this is where we've got a lot of moving parts right now.
Right. I mean, the city has already signed a development agreement. States that they're intent to do all this, but it is nonetheless, they have not completed their process for formalizing it. So I don't anticipate that we won't have the full implementation of it, but it is a process. And so I don't know.
It's been a long road. No, it's been a long road so far, so we're still on the road. But
right. For example, this plan, it tells in more detail what the costs are going to be involving the project and what exactly the money taken from the tax increment finance plan will be used to offset. And it's a combination of, concrete work and dirt work and utility, hooking up the utilities. And, I don't have the whole list in front of me, some interest costs and so forth. And so anyway, it's telling in more detail how exactly this project is going to be implemented. I don't think there's any surprises, but there's detail there.
Okay. Another acronym here.
So
HERO.
Well, this also kind of relates to the grocery store. One of the sources of finance that we have building into this is some funding from Sunflower Foundation. Its purpose is to promote health in Kansas. And this program that they made available last year is called Healthy Eating Rural Opportunities, hence HERO. Some of the funding that they've provided us is for planning at this stage, and so it's gone into some of the legal costs for setting up the tax increment finance district, and the survey costs, and some of the work that we're doing kind of to think ahead with the city of St. John, so that we can be thinking about what does it take to grow our town 300 people or more. That helps create success for not only the grocery store but every other business. So some of that has been supported by the HERO grant. We're one of 8 communities statewide that has been in this, has been accepted into this program, and we had a convening in Topeka within the last month. And I don't know, it's just kind of nice to get some inspiration about what's working in other towns and kind of get a glimpse of what's ahead. We presumably will be getting a second stage of funding with this that we intend to apply to the construction of the grocery store, but also to some programs essentially that keep people interested in what the store has to offer, and especially, of course, the healthy side of what the store will offer and how that can just improve kind of our public health outlook.
I would think that this project in St. John with the grocery store and doing what you're doing is kind of perking the interest of a lot of communities across the state. I mean, has anyone reached out, or can people have questions? What are you doing down there?
Well, I think we're being watched. I do think that. I mean, we aren't there yet. It's not built yet. We did apply for a federal grant last month. We won't know about that and for another month or so. That will be a big deal. And, if and when that falls into place, then a lot of other things will start to fall into place. But we are probably taking a different tack in some way than other small towns, in that we've kind of said, we think to be strong in the long term, we need to expand the scope of the store as opposed to try to be small and sustainable. Because just being small and sustainable is, in our analysis, a pretty tough row to hoe. So we've kind of gone the other direction and said, how can we generate more business in this facility? And that's where the pharmacy and the fuel and the like have played into it.
Who's the grant with, Carolyn? I mean, or who would be the grant be from?
You mean the federal grant?
Right.
U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
How hard was it to write the grant proposal for that?
It was the
Pretty
biggest
detailed?
undertaking I've ever.
The month of July.
Okay.
I joke sometimes that it was like having, like doing a master's thesis.
Just some things that maybe people be surprised about when you're writing a grant application like that for a federal grant. I mean, concerning the growth, what would be some things that people might be surprised about that are included in that maybe surprised you?
How would I characterize that?
That's a hard question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm testing you here.
We just had to have a lot of it tie together, if that makes sense. It was just good discipline anyway in the course of the project. For example, that's where the development agreement with the city of St. John came into play. We'd been talking with them about the TIF, and we were starting the process and everything, but we didn't have anything in writing that showed the intent to cooperate with the city of St. John. So we developed a development agreement that said, we intend to implement a tax increment finance plan. We think it's going to generate this amount, and this is for 20 years, and we'll take $50,000 from our citywide sales tax and dedicate it. So we had to have that all kind of documented so that when we said in our grant application, this is how this program's going to work. Okay, so that was the development agreement was just 4 pages of our 125 pages worth of attachments. So it was just a lot of that.
But it was the month of July.
It was documenting what we had found in our 2 feasibility studies. And a lot of what this grant is seeking to address is not so much directly the idea of food deserts, even though that is one of those, federal designations and in some contexts can be that indicator of need. In this particular grant, what they're looking for is the ability to create jobs that low-income people can attain and keep. And so really that kind of fits well with a grocery store too. There's not a lot of formal education that's required for the kind of jobs that has to offer. So we will be setting up a system. Essentially, one of our agreements would be with Kansas Workforce One, that they would provide referrals to the store for employees that fit the kind of the target group that we're trying to create job opportunities for. And we have in Stafford County, 28% poverty. That's twice the state average of 14% and more than twice the average of the federal average of 13%. So we were hopefully able to show that we have the need in our county for employment in that kind of target category. So there you go. I don't know. We had, I think they said 114 applicants nationwide, and they'll probably fund 20% of that.
You're undefeated in grant proposals.
I
so
am not
okay.
undefeated. No, let's correct that right away.
All right.
You win some, you lose some, but this one would be one I really want to win.
All right, Carolyn Dunn with us, Ashlee Bevan. And we talked about the pharmacy being a need in your county. How about the Heart of Kansas Family Health Care establishing a clinic in Stafford?
That's a nice development, too, and really kind of goes along with the idea of providing services for people of all income levels. The Heart of Kansas Family Health Care Clinic, that's one that a lot of people may know about here in Great Bend. They'll be establishing a clinic in Stafford County now. So we're very excited about that. They're expected to officially open somewhere around September 5th with behavioral and mental health services kind of being the first set of offerings there. Kind of expand the services gradually based on the contracting and hiring of staff and certification and credentialing of the clinic at that particular site. But I will say there will be some additional employment opportunities. So if working in a medical office, either at like a front desk position or CNA, CMA, LPN, nursing type position is of interest, call our office and we will provide you some more information on how to apply there.
Well, that's kind of neat. Another example of something like that coming in, offering some employment options.
Right. 6 jobs. I don't know. In our context, that's as many as what, the calculations are sometimes, what would you have to do to stop population decline? And it's only a handful of families, like 6 to 10 families a year. And so there you go. I mean, 6 jobs can be significant in a context of a small county.
Okay, starting to add up. We've talked Hero, TIF, Heart of Kansas Family Health Care, Stafford Painting Partnership, and an update with the incubator building and pharmacy. Anything else today? We ran through the sheet today.
That's all I have written down to cover.
When are the Wiener dog races?
Oh, it's always the first Saturday in October.
Okay, that's an Oktoberfest thing, right?
Yes.
Well, see, again, Dakota Tucker, you have to take responsibility for him.
Is he entering a dog in the contest?
Well, no, we were talking about maybe doing. How does it work? I mean, do they have wiener dog races all day long, and then you have the championship wiener dog race? Or I mean, we're looking for possible play-by-play opportunities here.
Julian Kinsner in Stafford is the guru of wiener dog races. I'm sure she would love that title too. Guru of wiener dog races. We need to get her on
I
the
think
program.
it'd be more director of wiener dog races. I think would be the proper term for that. I've never been, so I don't know. I don't know what we're looking at here. It's
usually toward like the afternoon portion of Oktoberfest. That's when at least the grand finale is that I've. And they had the Wienermobile there last year. The Wienermobile. I got to ride in it. I remember saying, this is like a bucket list item I didn't even know I had.
Well, just some possible things coming up. As long as I had information on these dogs, I mean, what his record was and things like that. So,
I don't know what all the handicaps are and who the favored candidates are.
This dog isn't very big. We got to put a brick on its back to make sure it comes up to weight. Okay, guys, thanks for the update as always. That's Focus on Stafford County. News coming up next on 1590 KVGB Great Bend.